hairdo? Anybody like it?
Yeah.
I like that's okay. For real, it's good. 3 months. Well, anyway, they're 3 months. I wouldn't be able to see my notes if I did that, so I won't do that. But we've been going through this prayer and fasting, and God's been reminding me of things. And during the time my daughter started going to church, over to
Turning Point.
She'd been going with her mom and a friend of hers that had just having some struggles in her life. And she was telling me, well, the friend I actually knew. And it was about 18 years ago. You know, I was behind in the times. I went in, and she's a hairdresser, and she gave me a new do. She went in, she put some highlights in it, and made me look good. I've been wearing that same haircut when my hair is cut. Usually I wait too long to cut it. But for about 16, 18 years. Wow. And that was the friend that Ashley had been going to church with. So I was like, hey, maybe I'll go see Carrie and see if Carrie can give me a new do. So here's the new do. And so, but I say that because Carrie's also a friend of mine. When we were younger, anybody know where the skating rink, the old skating rink is in Stockbridge? We used to go skating. Out there, we would skate. And I thought she was actually older than she is, because when we were cutting her hair, she was cutting my hair. I was like, I thought you were older than that. She was like, gee, thanks. I was like, no, not because of how you look, because we went to the skating rink together. And she goes, well, you were the old guy at the skating rink. And so anyway, God's just been reminding me of things. I told you, anybody been watching the videos I've been sending out? Mm-hmm. I've been talking a little bit. The first week we went to Relevant Church, and God began speaking on that Sunday, talking about our relationships. And when I got home that night, that evening, Becca had cleaned out a desk downstairs and put a bunch of stuff on my desk in my bedroom, which was where our office was at the beginning. And it was this book, and I started kind of flipping through it. And like I say, there's stuff in here from 2005, 2006. There's stuff from Bible college when I met Daryl Hornsby back in 2004, a long time ago. And so he began speaking to me through that. Well, it wasn't long after that. It was about a week later. We went through, we moved our office downstairs out of our bedroom. And most of you know my story. If you don't know my story, to make a long story short, I was married, young, went out, we both lived a life, and we were hanging in the bars, and you know what happens, and so I got divorced. And that was a 2-year process, and I was going through that process, and that was during the time I was talking to you about earlier, how Butch was speaking into my life during that season. But anyway, as I was cleaning our office off, I came through my wife again. She put something on my desk, and I got in there, and I looked at it, I started looking at it. And these are like little affidavits you've seen in the court. These are letters. There's like 15 of them here. When I was going through my divorce, there were people who wrote these letters. Some of them were like my sister, obviously, my dad. But there was like 3 or 4 pastors. There's a guy who was a VP of a big corporation. There were a couple of teachers. There were some women whose daughters or sons were on my soccer team. And they were writing letters about me. Encouraging letters to the judge to tell him what kind of guy I was. I ended up getting custody of my children, but I was reminded of the goodness of God, because when everything fell apart, I was nothing. Through a period of time, God had begun to do some things, and through some people, He encouraged me. And this year, as I went back there, He began to encourage me again. And so that's where I got the idea of that book. Here's another book, kind of like the book you got. I found it going through stuff. It's from 2003. And it was that verse that I began talking to you about in the beginning. For my determined purpose is that I may know Him. God has been faithful. He's been faithful to me. God's been faithful to you. I know there's people in this room that you've been through some things. Maybe you were a single parent at one time when you had some kids, and you're like, oh my God, what am I going to do? And God worked it out. You know, maybe your marriage had gone through some things, and you didn't know where you were going to end up, but God came in and He worked it out. When we began to trust Him. There's some people in here, we've gone through some things together. I remember getting in a meeting with Travis and Denise Cooper when I was youth pastor of Chris Cooper. You remember this meeting? We sat down. Chris was in the youth group, and so we had Travis and Denise say, hey, we need to have a meeting. And I sat down, and Chris was in there, and me and Denise. Chris isn't a believer. And he's got Nick, everybody know Nick. He's got his brother jamming it down his throat every day. And something had happened where some kids got in some trouble for kind of cutting up at the time. But the point of it was, we just need to love Chris where he was. Well, lo and behold, about 6 months later, Chris Cooper accepted Jesus. I was able to baptize him in Pastor Dave's pool. And now Chris is right now, he's in the second year of Bible college. You know, sometimes when we embrace Jesus in those moments of struggle, we can walk away and say, man, it's not what I would have prayed for, but it's more than I could have dreamed of. If we would just trust him through the process. God's been faithful to me, he's been faithful to you. And in that passage, he's talking to Israel. He says, forget the former things. Do not dwell on the past. See, I am doing a new thing. Right before that, Isaiah is writing, and he's talking about when he brought Israel God brought Israel through the Red Sea. How he parted the waters, and the horses came through, and the chariots, and God brought the waters back on the Egyptians. How he rescued them. You know, Israel could really look back at a lot of things. You know, how God has been faithful to them. He was faithful in that season. He was faithful through Abraham. He was faithful with Noah. Remember Noah? He said, go build a boat. And Noah's like, okay. He went and did it, and then God rescued his family because of it. And then you have Joshua. Remember Joshua? In Jericho? How they went in to the land. God was faithful during that season. God has always been faithful. God's been faithful to me. He's been faithful to you. But he was reminding them of those times. He said, forget the former things. Forget the past. Forget what has happened. Forget what I've done in the past and look forward. I'm doing a new thing. There's something new out there. There's something new on the horizon. I'm bringing you to something new. Of course, he's talking about Jesus was coming. He's doing a new thing. He's going to send his son. He says he's going to bring spring rivers in the desert. He's going to bring water to his people. He's going to bring the people who are thirsty. He's going to quench their thirst. And he's talking about Jesus. He's talking about the one who would come and die for us. And as I pondered that and I thought about that, you know, and in the Exodus, who did God use? You can talk.
Moses.
Who did God use? Moses. Who did God use to take Israel into the promised land? Joshua. That's a good job. And so, who did God use to bring salvation to the world? Jesus. Was Jesus God? Was Jesus man?
Yes.
As I ponder that, God always uses somebody. God always uses a person to bring something new, to usher something new in. Jesus was God, but Jesus is fully man. And God used him to usher in a new thing. At the cross on Calvary. And then he took that same Jesus, before he died, he gathered up some people around him. He spent time with those people day in, day out for 3 years. And then right before he went back to heaven, he told them, he said, all authority has been given to me. Now, go. With the same authorities, and go and make disciples. And teach them to obey all the things I've commanded you. And lo, I will be with you always to the end of the age. And there was these guys, these regular old... Peter was a fisherman. I mean, I don't know about you, but all the fishermen I know, they can make a sailor blush. But God chose him. He chose Peter. He took Paul, the Pharisee who killed Christians, and used him to take this message to the end of the world. And we look at these guys. They could have just, it would have been easier, wouldn't it? Because when you look at the early church, there was a lot of struggles. There was a lot of opposition. Matter of fact, they all died. They were all martyred except for one. For the gospel, for the good news. And here's what I believe. If we'll embrace God, if we'll embrace Jesus in the struggle, we'll turn around one day and we'll be, man, it's not what I prayed for, but it's better than anything I could have ever dreamed of. It's the struggle. See, here's what I believe. I believe right now, in this moment, in this season, God is doing something new. And He's looking to me and you. That's pretty good. I don't like that. God is doing something new, and He's looking to me and you. You know, what about you? You know, are you willing to embrace Jesus in the process? With your husband? Or with your children? That's what it's about. It's about the moment. Embracing Jesus in all the moments and all the struggles and all the hardship and all the pain. Through losing people, through disappointment, through rejection, through failure. Just continuing to hold on to Jesus. And I know if we would just do that, we'd turn around and say, man, it's not what we prayed for, because we can say that already. But if we'll just stay faithful and keep moving towards the horizon. The funny thing about the horizon is you never get there. It's always out there. You can't really see what's there. But if we just keep moving, God will draw us. It'll be something that better than we could ever dream of. As I was looking through here, here's the one thing I noticed about people that God used in the Scripture. You know what they did? Here's what my wife keeps telling me too. They just started walking. He told Abraham, hey, come out of your father's house and go to the land that I will show you. Not to the land that I already told you about. Just start walking to the land that I will show you. And see, here's what I believe about us. I believe God's going to use us to change a generation. I was talking to Chris the other day, and we've had this saying for a while, and I was like, tell me what that was. And he couldn't tell me. He tried. But I bet nobody in this room could tell me. And so, it's not because he didn't try. I think I had made it clear. And so I'm working on something, but I got a working kind of thing that God's calling us to. Every generation for a generation. Can you remember that? You can probably say it right now. Every generation for a generation. In this room, we got boomers. Not you. I'm talking about that. We got boomers. King of the Maze. She's an Xer. Yes. We got millennials. We got Generationz Z. Yeah. But if we would all just come together and look backwards. You don't have to go from boomer to Z. You go from boomer to X. But if we're all constantly look backwards and bringing the people behind us forward, we can move this thing forward. We can reach some people for Jesus. And we won't end up like the people after Joshua's generation when they wrote in Judges 2:9. After his generation, the generation grew up and didn't know God. I don't want that on me. And so I'll slow down for a minute. I get Daryl. Come on, man. He's got a few times. I don't know what he's got to say. Jesus got something to say.
Hey, man, it's amazing how God works. Everything Chris just said is exactly what the Lord has been saying to me. But Chris called me to talk because I'm the scary guy. I'm the guy that challenges people to believe what they say they believe. Now, he's absolutely right. God is about to do a new thing. He's absolutely right about that. But what that requires is a new us. See, if we will do what Moses did, he set it up. If we would do what Joshua did, if we would do what Abraham did, God will do what he's always done with people of faith. Now, what that means is we have to be all in. All in. I mean, that's believing that God is able. That's trusting. That's getting out of the boat and walking on water. I mean, that's all it takes. That's all God requires of us. Just to trust him and believe in what he said. Just believe it. I mean, just fool the world. You know, just go out and say, well, I'm going to not trust in my natural instincts, because instincts will tell you to stay in the boat. It's just natural. I mean, it flies in the face of reason to step out on water. It's just not something you commonly do. But if you would, God will do a new thing. Now, that's a powerful message, and I believe it. See, I'm out the boat already. I hadn't seen the shoreline in years. I don't even want to go to the shore no more. I just want to walk on water till God takes me on. So that's where we got to go. And I wrote a devotion the other morning, and it's amazing how what Chris said ties into what this devotion is. Now, I'm going to do something corny. As a matter of fact, when people ask me to do it, I'm always reluctant to do it, but I'm going to ask you to do it, and I want you to do it because you're all in now. And I want you to just close your eyes, if you will. Just close your eyes for a moment and imagine that you're standing before God at the day of your judgment. And your walk with him had been lacking. That you knowingly and willingly held back on your worship. You held back on your love and devotion for him. But he looks at you with eyes that reveal a love so pure that you're instantly ashamed of yourself. Instantly. You wish immediately that you had it to do all over again. You wish even more that you could have given him not just everything you have, but everything you didn't have. He smiles because he knows the sincerity of your pain and he forgives you. But your own self-assessment remains. You will forever yearn to have it to do over again after having met him, after having seen the depths of his love for you. I pray we won't have to carry this type of guilt throughout eternity, but one sure way to not be overburdened by it, if we were to, from this day forward, live all in. That is to give yourself completely and totally over to the will of God, praying to him without ceasing, seeking his guidance in literally every decision we make, day in and day out. Making everything you say or do be done or said to the glory of God. I know it seems a bit extreme, but is it? The truth is that it's the only effort befitting our Lord and Savior. Anything less than that is an affront to who he is and how much he loves us. Think for a minute that God came and died not to save us all, but merely to give us all a chance to be saved. He died knowing that not all would choose him, that not all would be saved. Had his death saved all of humanity, it might have been a reasonable sacrifice. But he willingly died just to give us a choice. To me, that's extreme. And for me, that's reason enough to be all in. Now, you can open your eyes, but see, I think forward. I always think forward. And I pray, and I know that the day will come when we'll stand before our Creator. I know the day will come. You know it too. You know, you can deny. can turn a blind eye to it, but the day will certainly come when we all will stand before Him. And on that day, and in that moment, we want to be able to stand and know without reservation, without hesitation, without reserve, that we gave God everything. Everything. You know, that's what you want. You want to stand before Him. And we both know that whatever I had, it was yours. You know, whatever you wanted me to do, I did it. So, see, we want to go there. So let's trust God with our lives and let's do what God calls us to do, because there's something new on the horizon. Amen. Amen. God bless you.
Everybody needs a friend like Daryl. Daryl's about one of the only people that can look me in the eye and talk to me about any kind of way. I don't get mad at him. I want to share one more thing God's reminded me of in this season before we close this out. You know, in our lives, you're showing my paper. I started to get off topic and call this. Anybody remember Collective Soul?
Yes.
Their first album, they had an album called Hence Allegations and Things Left Unsaid. I started to change the name of this to something else, but I got off topic. I was going to call it Notebooks, Affidavits, and Raising the Dead. But as I was going through this, you know, there's moments in our lives that mark us.
Yes.
And from that day forward, we're never the same. I used to have this fear in my life when I was younger. I never expressed it to anybody else. And I don't know if it was a fear. It was just something inside. I didn't think I was going to live to 29 years old. I don't know why. I just felt like I wasn't going to make it that far. When I hit rock bottom, I was 28 years old. And I thought I had lost this. I didn't know where it was going. Oh, my wife put it up somewhere. It's my baptism certificate from Community Bible Church. What's the date on there?
January 7th, 2004.
I was born on January the 6th, 1975. That was the day after my 29th birthday. Wow. I was marked on that day to move forward. I pray for us, you and I, that this day, as a body of believers, will be a day that marks us. There will be change from this day forward, that will continue to chase the horizon that He's called us to. My world was falling apart around me at this time, but I trusted Him. There was another year and a half before my divorce was settled from this day. And God, you know, God likes to put icing on the cake.
Amen.
This envelope I received, and what's the stamp date on
Yeah, Chris, I can't see.
January 27, 2004.
there? What's the date?
January 27.
January 27th.
Ooh.
God is speaking,
Yeah.
and He's calling us to something. And it's going to take everything. It's like Daryl said, we got to be all in.